Okay. Theoretically, I should be live. There's a real chance I'm not live, but it appears that I'm live. So, this is going to be our finals match, and it hasn't technically started yet. But our finals match for the SCT fall season, and uh, it's an interesting one. So, the finals is MoxMango versus Kinggambit. Mox is on Light Pause, and Kinggambit is on Spider-Man 2099. Both of these contenders have not been part of an SCT before, so this is the first SCT that they've been a part of, and one of them is going to win. So that's very exciting. All right. And so that's very exciting. They have actually played each other before in this tournament, and it was Kinggambit who came out on top with a decisive 2-0 victory. Now, I wasn't there for it, so I don't know what exactly caused that. It could have been a variance thing. It could have just been the likelihood, the statistical likelihood. But we'll see. So, yes, so Light Pause is a very strong combo deck that for a while has been kind of out of the format, and due to recent card changes has come back into the spotlight. Spider-Man 2099, really, it just came out. This is one of the first leagues that it's been legal in, and has proved to be very strong. It's a very powerful kind of tempo control deck. So, we'll see it in action. We'll see how Light Pause can do against it. This particular Light Pause list is fairly unoptimized, and from what I understand, isn't particularly good into blue. However, there is a Voice of Victory. If that Voice of Victory sticks around, easy peasy way to stop counterspells. However, I have a suspicion that it won't stick around. Let's see what myriad of answers they have. Okay, Flame Slash. Holding up mana. It could be a bluff. There's a real chance that it is a bluff. Although, I probably, as a Light Pause player, I wouldn't take the risk. Unless you had a lot of mana. Okay. So they're going for it. And it resolves. Okay. So, there's a decent chance that was actually a bluff, and Box called it a bluff. Let's see. Ooh. Okay. So, Summon Brynhilder is a surprisingly solid card for Spider-Man 2099. It gives both haste and triggers the anywhere other than the hand. Alright, main deck Curse of Silence being cast. And this should give the Mask of Law and Grace to Light Pause. I assume they're naming Spider-Man. Yes. Okay. So, tutoring up something with Light Pause. Ethereal Armor. Okay. That's valid. Because technically speaking, for a red deck, you technically just need to get it to be high enough power. And in this case, that is what they're doing. My suspicion is that they have another aura in hand. It is just something, a flash aura that they're going to be using for protection, just in case there is some sort of bounce spell. Alright. So, cast Ledger Shredder, pass. This is interesting. So, it's looking really good for Light Paws right now. Has a lot of mana to be able to recast Light Paws if needed. But frankly, being able to stick in Ethereal Armor is very good. Yes. So here is an aura, presumably holding up another aura. They're going to be grabbing something like Idolized. Unless they want to have Sheltered by Ghosts to get rid of Ledger Shredder. And to give a ward. Okay. So, Light Paws is big, beefy, spooky. Now has ward and flying. Okay, because there's an idolized in hand. That'll get all the glitters, and that should be lethal unless they have a counterspell. They do. Okay. Which is A-okay for the Light Paws player, because that just means it turns into a 2-turn clock instead of a 1-turn clock. So, this is looking like Light Paws' game. We'll have to, of course, see if that's the case. There is a world in which Spider-Man can stop it, but it is unlikely. Alright, we have an Inti, presumably to try to impulse draw into something good. Has haste from Brynhilder. That is not something good. It's usually very good, but not here. Yes. So, on to game number 2. So this is one game more than Mox's won against Spider-Man 2099 this tournament. Because previously they went clean 0-2. Alright. So, we have a fairly standard both keeping. Double Island is Telegraph and Counterspell. Yep, there's a mom. Yep, I would assume that resolves, and then they cast some sort of removal spell. Okay, Petty Theft. So, not quite removal, but not nothing. Oh, that's interesting. So, they miss a land drop. They do not have access to red. So, theoretically, this means that I would 100% assume they have a counterspell. So, Voice of Victory, very useful here. And recast Bomb. Okay, so Voice of Victory was forced to resolve, which is very interesting. I don't know why that is, because unless they're holding up a wash away, that would be my take, is they're probably holding up a wash away, which can counter Light Paws, but not Voice of Victory. But with Mom Voice of Victory, If they can't get rid of Voice of Victory here, I think they just lose. With the mana that they have. Let's see. And, yep, there we go. Wow, that's brutal. Well, that is our 10 minutes 2-0 victory for the finals. And we have a clean winner of MoxMango, who has SCT has never won. Oh, never mind. Never me mind. I think this is a best of 5 game. There's a real chance it's best of 5. My bad. My bad. Let me check and verify that. I'm going to assume it is a best of 5 game, but I can afford to check. Oh, it is a best of 5 game. I just recalled. So, MoxMango Kinggambit has not lost a single match. And since this is a double elimination tournament, you need to have you need to lose twice. So, they need to play 2 successive matches and win both matches to actually beat Kinggambit. So that is what's happening. They have won 1 match. This is a second match to see who is the champion. Now, there's a chance that it'll be a clean 2-0 again, but we'll have to see. For reference, because of the difficulty of winning twice in a row, we have never gotten... Okay, that was a missequence, frankly. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, we have never gotten in SCT somebody from the loser's bracket to win against the person that has stayed in the upper bracket. So this would be... There's a chance we're witnessing history. Although, admittedly, SCT has only been going for 2 or 3 years now. So, there's not much history. But there's still history. Yep. Lelia with the mana drain. Spider-Man to pick off the mom. And holding up a mana, possibly, to stop Light Pause. Although at this point, there's a decent chance that Mox is going to try to call their bluff to see if that is actually the case. Yep. All right. So it resolves. So it is not, in fact, wash away. If I were the Light Pause player, I would probably just risk it because they're going to get extra cards. Yeah. Yep. Here, I would just risk it and hope that they don't have the 1 mana removal. Okay, it looks like they do. Now, that's not the normal 1 mana removal, so that's not that bad, because that just means they can recast Light Pause next turn and try the whole thing over again. But with an expressive iteration, that's going to be a lot harder. Alright, this is exactly what Spider-Man 2099 wants to do in this scenario. Yeah. Alright. So, it is not looking good for Mox right now. This is exactly what they don't want to have happen. A whole lot of damage. They're being threatened with lethal. If Spider-Man has any sort of removal spell, it is GG's. However, if they manage to stick a Light Paws and not die, which are two very big asks Light Paws can get back from this. But, given that they probably don't have mainboard lifelink, the best shot they have is Ethereal Armor. Okay, Lash Knife is a very interesting choice. So Lash Knife is usually incredibly strong. But, okay, it doesn't matter. Because Light Paws is getting stomped. Yeah, the problem is that even if you cast... Oh, Lash Knife can get sheltered by Ghost. Okay. So, we are swiftly reconfiguring Lelia, I assume, to stop any sort of damage there. Then you're going to cast... Then Lash Knife is going to get... Lash Knife is going to be getting the almighty Sheltered by Ghosts. Yep, so Swift Reconfiguration gets Shard Mages to protect from the Stomp. Then Lash Knife will get Sheltered to eat Spider-Man 2099. Now, theoretically, so they could cast Spider-Man to then... Frankly, if I were in their shoes, I would have gotten... I assume that they have stone armor or whatever. That's not what it's called. But 1 mana, +0/+2, Flash Aura. I would have gotten that instead of the Shard Mages, just because that would be more likely to protect against a recasting of Spider-Man 2099. But interestingly enough, they're not bothering to recast. They are plainly just keeping Spider-Man 2099 in their little bubble. I assume that's because there is a removal spell incoming. Yes, that is a Bolt plus Ward. Yep, Bolt plus Ward. And that is probably game. And that's what I was saying, of if they got the +0/+2 aura, that wouldn't have been able to happen. They are technically not dead. If they have something like On Thin Ice, that could be not bad. Okay. So that's going to give a little bit of a buffer, but not a lot of a buffer. So we'll see how it goes. Cartouche Solidarity is very strong against certain types of edicts. And in this case, it's solid at stalling. Let's see if it ends up mattering. There's a few ways that Spider-Man 2099 can just get over the opponent here. Or if you just buff it enough and then cast something from exile, such as the Brazen Borrower. So right now, if they have something like it gives +4 power to Spider-Man, and then they cast a Brazen Borrower, that would just be lethal. So, SRAM plus Cartouche will buy 2 turns of attacking to maybe be able to recast Light Paws and then get away with everything. But we're seeing here, Brazen Borrower, Spider-Man, yep, deals 2. Dragon's Rage Channeler is currently very much not online. However, that is 3 damage in the air, plus at least 1 damage on the ground if they don't have any other creatures. So, Mox is in a very tough spot. Okay, Hyena Umbra to draw a card. Lotus Petal. Ethereal Armor to draw another card. Okay, so this is just like basically desperation. Because there's no way you can conjure up lethal with SRAM. Not at 17. Skrelv cannot block, so this won't actually save them. And do we have one last? No, we do not. Okay. So that should be game. SRAM cannot block the flyer. I believe the only way that they would not lose is if Kinggambit fails to realize that Skrelv cannot block. Now, if Mox declares Skrelv as a blocker, then that would be an illegal move, and so they can't do that, but they can bluff a potential... Okay, never mind. Although Brotherhood's End... Okay. Oh, they're destroying all artifacts. Okay, sure. And they hit in for lethal, and that's game. Really? Only attacking with the Brazen Borrower. Why not attack with Dragon's Rage Channeler and Spider-Man? Okay, doesn't matter. Great. Oh, because I guess Spider-Man 2099 could cast the top card. Or cast a spell. If they cast a spell from exile, they'll deal lethal damage. So, I don't know. It ended up working out. Alright. So, second match, second game. Let us see what this will do. Okay, slow start from Light Pause. Usually at this point, there would be either a protection piece or a Grand Abolisher effect. I assume they wouldn't dare to cast Light Balls here because there is no way that Spider-Man 2099 doesn't have some sort of counter spell or removal spell. Okay. End step, Opera Love Song. Try to get some more things going. Well, they have lands. Their third land drop is insured. Okay. Yeah, Spider-Man 2099, 1,000,000% has removal. Okay, so this is going to be SRAM beats, possibly. Okay. So holding up a protection spell for SRAM, I assume. The benefit here is that if Spider-Man 2099 fails to produce pressure and they can't remove SRAM, SRAM can become a legitimate threat. Last game we saw a 7/7 SRAM. Without any sort of blockers, that is a 3-turn clock. However, Spider-Man 2099 here is going to threaten to just blow up SRAM. So, it will be difficult. Yep. Okay. So SRAM just got blown up. Nothing here. They're holding up 2 mana. I assume, again, it's counterspell mana. Yes. Mana drain. Yep. So unless there's sideboard mana tithe, there's not. We now have a countered light pause. So this is looking incredibly bad for light pause. We'll see what happens, but the odds of Spider-Man 2099 dealing half of their life total right here is decently high. And from there, any sort of removal spell for light pause when it's recast is going to be game. Alright. Yep, so Spider-Man 2099 is going to become a potential. Okay. Is going to be a 3/3, but okay. So Swift Reconfiguration was burned, attacked. I assume? Yeah. No. Maybe? Eh. Well, here's a Grand Abolisher. Needs to be dealt with. I assume they're also casting possibly a Giver effect. Okay, on thin ice to get rid of Spider-Man 2099. Now, it is worth noting. Yep, it just goes back to the zone. And so, for 4 mana, they can recast Spider-Man 2099, which triggers itself to deal 2 damage to the Grand Abolisher. So, unless they have protection for Grand Abolisher in hand, which is very possible, then Grand Abolisher is probably going down here. Let's see. Okay, Expressive Iteration. This means the likelihood of Spider-Man 2099 being the one to get rid of Grand Abolisher is very low. However, there's still a solid chance they have removal in hand. Something like a Lightning Bolt, or hell, even an Into the Floodmaw. And that would be their second spell. Paying 3 for the Lost and the Damned. Okay. So, that will trigger Quarry Steel, but the problem is, that's not going to get rid of the Grand Abolisher. Okay, yeah. So, we will see Light Pause resolve. Yep. So, if they have another land drop, then they could cast a 1-mana aura, give some protection, and then hold up protection. However, if they don't have that, it's a bit risky. Another option is, right now, they could just run out some sort of aura and hope that an Into the Floodmaw style effect does not pop up. Alright, that's what they're going with. So, Cartouche, I assume, tutoring up the Mask. Alternatively, as I had said previously, they could tutor up some sort of toughness boosting aura. which would serve a similar purpose. Let's see what they do. All right. Yep. We're grabbing the mask. That will give protection from red and technically black, but it'll give protection from red. So now the only way to get rid of Light Paws is going to be to bounce it to hand. Even a symmetrical board wipe would not be sufficient. Yes, so for example, Brotherhood's End will deal damage to every other creature, but not to Light Paws himself. Now, if Kinggambit was really kitted out, they would then also have a bounce spell. But that's not going to happen. Monk trigger Inti. Of course, here they just take the 2 and carry on. There's a decent chance, depending on what Light Paws has, that this is going to be lethal. Let's see. They would need 2 auras to get ethereal armor and idolized plus protection or something like that. Or plus evasion. Alright, so there's the evasion plus idolized. And then if one of their 2 cards... Okay, so they're currently fetching. If they have an Into the Floodmaw here, that would be incredibly brutal. Spell Snare. Okay. That's close to as good. So, these 2 cards both need to be auras. If they are not auras, Light Paws might be in trouble. Let's see. Alright, there is Military Discipline to grab ethereal armor. But again, unless they have any sort of... Oh, never mind. I am realizing that all of the creatures are red. They do not need any evasion right now, because all of their opposing creatures are red, and they have protection from red. So, none of the creatures can block. All they need right now is to get that final idolized, which should be lethal. So, if this is a 2-drop aura in hand, it is looking very good. Oh, it is not. Okay. So, there we have it. Now for real this time. A 2nd place MoxMango and a 1st place Kinggambit. At this point, the SCT is now over, and the result is kind of as expected. Spider-Man 2099 wins, and Light Paws loses. But a very impressive showing from both players. And
hello,
we'll see.
hello.
Hi. So at this point...
This is going to game 3?
No, we've just finished. It should not be going to game 3. They went a clean 2-0 against Mox.
Oh. I thought Bugs won the second game.
No.
I missed the last part.
Yeah. So at this point, Kinggambit has won. Light Paws did a very good showing. Second place is nothing to scoff at, especially with a very unoptimized deck.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well,
Last.
that was an interesting tournament.
Yeah,
A
for
lot
sure.
of combo.
Yes, I believe half of it was combo. Now that's less of a reflection on the current meta and more of a reflection on what people wanted to play.
Yeah.
Obviously, combo's good, and all of
Combo's
the decks that they're
always
playing
good.
are going to be good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the objectively best things to be running. However, we had a non-combo deck win the tournament as a whole. And
Yeah.
so,
Spider-Man is really an interesting deck. I
yeah.
It's an interesting deck. I'm not sure how good is it, and I did saw Kinggambit sometimes punt and still won.
Yes. Yep. And there was also some misplays on Mox's side as well. In this one, I would say the biggest one was probably fetching the Shard Mage's Rescue to stop a stomp, where they probably should have fetched the aura that gives +0/+2, because then it would protect from the bolt coming the turn after, which would
Yeah,
have probably won them that first game of the second match.
yeah. I did lose all the game. I was playing D&D, so
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm probably going to shut down the stream unless you have anything else to say. But
congrats to King's Gambit.
absolutely.
This is their first SCT,
Yep.
and he or they, let me check that. I think it goes by he, so he
Yes.
won it.
Yep.
So congrats to them. Also, MoxMango in the second place, and I hope to see them in Tiny Titans.
Yeah.
This way around, neither the Ursa or me are going to be playing. Sadly, we both lost at around
Yep.
6th place in both tournaments.
But this will be my first time going to Tiny Titans, which is very exciting. So
I have my thoughts on what you will be bringing if it's really close, the tournament. I did saw your post on the committee.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I bring.
Oh, if you want, you can choose end the stream.
Yep. Stream has been ended.